Welcome to the Digital Dream Out the Ground podcast. Your host, Austin Lee. Today, we're going to recap Week 7 NFL action, mainly with fantasy, because we're not going to talk about the Niners today. Um, for those of you watching on YouTube or Spotify, depending on how you're watching, right, you can see on my screen in my ESPN league, I went ahead and won 130.1 to 127.94, which basically snapped a 3-game losing streak. So I'm now 4-3 in my ESPN standard league. And then in my ESPN Plus league, I won 127.9 to 110.76. Obviously, at 17-point margin, I keep the win streak going. I have now won 3 straight. And essentially, I am now 5-2 in my ESPN Plus league. So obviously, above 500 both my leagues, unlike the Niners. But yeah, anyways, kind of, to recap, obviously there's a lot of great games, this weekend. But I think I just want to kind of talk about fantasy performers, for both my leagues. So let me go ahead and pull up my fantasy ESPN, performance. Also, yeah, I mean, I'm also going to talk about Pigskin as well because, I actually think I made some pretty good picks last week. But let's go ahead. The Gridiron 81 don't stop. Let's see, last week. Looks like I'm still in week 8. So need to go pull up. Apologies, everyone. Need to go into the scoreboard. NFL week 7. All right. Yeah, all right. So let's start. So Lamar Jackson basically had 10.7 points. Raheem Mostert had 20.9 points. Benjamin, right, of the Cardinals, Benjamin threw 23.3 points. Devontae Adams at 17.5 points. Christian Kirk at 17.1 points. Kittle finally got into form, baby. 21.8 points. His first 20-point performance of the season. Michael Pittman Jr., my flex, only had 9.8 points. The 49ers defense special teams play like garbage, had -4 points. Justin Tucker had 13 points. On my bench, I left Travis Etienne Jr., who had 18.9 points, arguably his best game of the year. I left Jerry Judy, who had 16.6 points, and Marcus Wallace Cannon, who also had 14.1 points. So, I definitely could have, capitalized on some of those, players. But, obviously by such a small margin of victory, the reason for that is Joe Burrow had 39.24 points, right? One of the best fantasy performers of last weekend. Saquon Barkley had 17.5 points. Damian Pierce had 15.7 points. Brandon Cooks had 8.6 points. Curtis Samuel had 12.9 points. Zach Ertz only had 6.1 points, but Mike Evans had 18.6 points. The New England defense special teams, which is where my fantasy my last week's fantasy performance was riding on. The Patriots defense special teams against the Bears, only had 4 points, and Evan McPherson and the Bengals had 5 points. So obviously Tucker performed well. I had more. I would say I would have more. Top performers across the board. I had 3 20-point performers last week. Even though Lamar Jackson had a very slow week, which was 10 points. He definitely did enough work. And obviously 2 17-point performers with Christian Kirk and Devontae Adams. So, obviously with this point spread was distributed very evenly, and I was really, really banking on the Bears Patriots game, and my bet basically paid off for that. So really happy about that. Let me pull up my ESPN Plus league. Um, so let's go here. So we NFL week 7. So obviously I won by 127.9, 110.76. My quarterback was Geno Smith. He only had 13 points. Derrick Henry had 16.8 points. Mike Carter had 9.4 points. T. Higgins had 14.3 points, but Juju Smith-Schuster had 25.4 points. David Njoku had 14.1 points. Jalen Waddle had 12.8 points. The Chicago defense and special teams had 12 points, and Daniel Carlson against the Texans had 10 points. Against, obviously, my opponent who had Aaron Rodgers, who only had 15.76 points. Austin Eckler had another monster, fantasy week with 36.7 points. Joe Mixon had only 18.1. He had 18.1 points. Brandon Cooks only had 8.6 points. Chris Godwin had 11.5 points. Robert Tonyan only had 6.2 points. Curtis Samuel had 12.9 points. The Jacksonville defense special teams had net -2 points. Brandon McManus had 3 points, right? So obviously kind of a recurring theme across the board. I mean, in my ESPN Plus league, I had 120 plus point performer, but I had a bunch of 14 plus point performers across the board. Derrick Henry solid, David Njoku, and obviously I couldn't start Hurts, for that reason. But I know obviously looking forward, for this week, Lamar Jackson is playing right now. He has a 0.88 points, 22 yards, and obviously the game just started. Mark Andrews has 3.2 points. So I apologize. I am not this is not my team. This is who I'm playing against. So he already has a 37.7. He already 37%. He already has 63% win projection by ESPN ESPN fantasy. Um but I mean I'm looking I'm probably gonna make some moves. I'm gonna probably bench Geno Smith, obviously for Hurts, obviously. I might make the move of benching a Michael Carter for Miles Sanders, because Pittsburgh. I mean, they've proven to be good, but they also proven to be kind of really consistent this year. I also will probably start Diggs. Juju Smith-Schuster is on his bye. Probably, depending on if Waddle is going to be ready. I might start him. As my wide receiver two behind Diggs, and then obviously T Higgins will be my flex. So, I'm looking forward to, some good games out of them. Maybe I'll win, maybe I won't. I'm not sure. Lamar Jackson, my other league. So my other league, I'm not sure if it's standard PPR, but he has 0.92 points. Like Raheem Mostert, Benjamin, Devontae Adams, Christian Kirk, George Kittle. I'm probably not gonna make too many changes. I may Raheem Mostert against Detroit. I'm predicting him to have another good game this week. Gonna predict. I'm gonna probably stick with Benjamin, because I mean, well, actually, I may bench Benjamin. He's playing the Vikings, so maybe I'll start Travis Etienne Jr. But he's playing the Broncos, and so I mean, it's really kind of a toss up at that point. Christian Kirk I'll keep starting. Devontae Adams against the Saints, starting him. George Kittle definitely starting him against the Rams. Michael Pittman Jr. Yeah, I'm gonna start him against the Commanders. So probably gonna stick with my my league kind of my starting lineups for this coming week. Let's go into ESPN Pick'em, Pigskin Pick'em. Apologies. Okay, so if I can pick my matchup, I can't pick it. Okay, so I missed the Ravens and Buccaneers game pick, so that's fine. It doesn't matter who wins at this point. So I'm gonna pick the Jaguars over the Broncos. Gonna pick the Falcons over the Panthers. Um, Cowboys over the Bears. I'm not sure. I think I'm gonna pick the Bears. Dolphins over Lions. Vikings over Cards. Raiders over Saints. Ooh, I'm not feeling good about that pick, but that's what I'm going with. Jets over Patriots. Not feeling good. I mean, I'm feeling kind of good, but not really. Eagles over Steelers. I'm predicting them to keep their undefeated streak going this week. Let's see. Titans over Texans. Colts, Commanders. Ooh, that's tough. I'm gonna go with the Colts. Sorry, Commanders. Pick Niners over the Rams. Hopefully we can win. I have no idea. We're basically Jekyll and Hyde this season. Giants over Seahawks. Bills over Packers. Bengals over Browns. All right, so that's it. And those are my picks. Let's go recap last week. Um, so I was, I believe, 8-5. Yeah, I picked the Bengals, the Titans, incorrectly picked the Packers, incorrectly picked the Buccaneers, picked the Giants, picked the Baltimore Ravens, picked the Cowboys, picked the Jets, Raiders. So I picked 5 teams consecutively, all correct, and then picked 2 teams incorrect, the Chargers and Niners. Correctly picked the Miami Dolphins, and incorrectly picked New England Patriots. Even though I should pick the Bears, because I felt like the Bears were going to win. That's why I kept their defense special teams against Patriots, starting. So, yeah. So yeah, once again, let me go back to week 8. I am picking again the Jaguars over the Broncos. 77% of America agrees with me on that pick. The Atlanta Falcons over the Panthers. 82% of America agrees with me on that pick. The Bears over the Cowboys. 7% of America agrees with me. So 93% of them are starting the Cowboys at home. The Dolphins over the Lions. The Vikings over the Cardinals. The Raiders over the Saints. The Jets over the Patriots. I'm picking the Eagles over the Steelers. Titans over the Texans. Commanders over the Colts. Niners over the Rams. Giants over Seahawks, and Buffalo Bills over Packers. So those are my picks. Actually, should I change my pick to the Bears? Yeah, I don't know if I'm pick. I'm picking the Dallas Cowboys defense. I mean, anyone. I mean, you must have brain damage if you're not picking the Cowboys defense at home. So, yeah. So yeah, I changed that pick, but those are my picks for week 8. So yeah, pretty much. Obviously, looking forward to the Niners season. I'm not really too sure kind of where they go from here on out. Obviously, Jason Vera has been activated off the IR or PUP or the PUP list, right? So maybe he'll bring something to the table. I'm not really too sure, obviously, and but hopefully, if he's going to be an impact player against the Rams, that'll be great. We definitely need some after that kind of a debacle against Kansas City. I'm not even going to really talk about that game too much. Obviously, I mean, just the defense was overexposed, and obviously, it has a lot of Niner fans like myself questioning how good this team actually is, or if they are even a good enough team to compete, right? They're good enough to compete. I think it's just they're not good enough to win a championship, right? Not good enough to probably make a Super Bowl this year either. Not saying the NFC. Everyone keeps saying it's wide open, right? I mean, the Eagles to me look like a good team. Obviously, everyone's saying, oh, the Cowboys, exposed the Eagles, but I mean, until someone proves that they can really make, until someone can actually beat them, I mean, obviously playoffs are different, right? The game slows down, and if a quote unquote gimmick quarterback, can't make throws, then yeah. But I do think that Jalen Hurts looks much improved this year. I was a big fan of Jalen Hurts coming out of college, so I don't see any reason not to pick the Eagles to win to represent the AFC in the Super Bowl at this point. So ultimately, I mean, if the Eagles do falter, I I don't know. I mean, the NFC is just kind of like, I'm what I mean, would I pick the Cowboys? I mean, I don't know, maybe. The defense looks good. Um, Let me see who else is in the NFC. Pull up the power rankings. No, not NFLshop.com. Don't do that. Let's go to NFL. Yeah, so the Ravens are currently leading the Buccaneers right now. Yeah, so the Giants, right? I mean, 6-1 under first year coach Brian Dable. Vikings, yeah, sorry, that's a good team. 5-1. I forgot about them. Seahawks are leading the division 4-3. It's a remarkable Pete Carroll is done with Geno Smith. I mean, we gotta give Pete Carroll a lot of credit. That's just remarkable, right? Doing that with a first year QB. Um, Cowboys 5-2. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think yeah, Rams are still they're second place in the NFC West, 3-3. Yeah. So yeah, I mean a lot of the NFC is pretty much not decided. There's and I was talking about it the other day, the Bills and the Chiefs, are definitely, the two best teams in the NFL, in my opinion. Um, I'm also gonna say that, I mean, the Bengals look good. I'm big on Joe Burrow. They start 0-2. They've since gone what 3-1, right? So I mean, they look good. So I mean, there's a lot of great teams. The Jets look pretty good too defensively, but they're pretty inexperienced. So I mean, I'm a big fan of Bob Saleh, obviously being a 49ers fan. Dolphins, I still believe in the Dolphins. I believe in Mike McDaniel as a coach. What he did to the Niners, what he did for the Niners. I mean, I have no reason to believe they can't also be a good team. So a lot of good teams. I mean, I don't know. I think the AFC is going to take it this year. I think probably Buffalo. Just based on how things look right now. Not to say Kansas City. The Kansas City has obviously beaten Buffalo multiple times in the playoffs the past two seasons. So there's no reason to believe there's no reason to not believe, obviously, especially after Sunday, why Kansas City can't be, a Super Bowl or a Super Bowl champion again this season, right? So, um, yeah, I mean, shout out my boy Brian Arline. Listen to this, right? Your Bears did great. On Monday, against the Patriots. One got me the dumb fantasy in both my leagues. Obviously both offensively, stopping the Patriots defense special teams, my ESPN Plus league against because I was playing them. I was playing the New England defense special teams last week, and then obviously, actually doing great job on defense special teams, against the Patriots and holding them to 14 points. That got me the win in my other standard league and snapped a 3-game losing streak. So now I'm over 500 both leagues. So yeah, I think that's pretty much it for this week. Hopefully Niners can get back to winning. I mean, obviously it's the Rams. I'm not sure, but we'll see. And coming up next week, we do have a pretty big guest. If you're not following us on Instagram or Twitter, Anthony Booby Dixon, the San Francisco 49ers, will be on the show on November 5th. Pretty hyped about that. 2012 NFC champion, 2012, 2013 NFC championship game starter. Obviously played Super Bowl 47, so he was part of the 10th anniversary team that was honored this past weekend. So I'm definitely looking forward to, kind of, catch up with him, seeing what he's been up to since, he stopped playing in the league. And yeah, should be a good one. So everyone tune in for that episode, November 5th, with Anthony Booby Dixon. I'll be back on before that next week to kind of obviously, recap the week action of NFL and, kind of talk about fantasy and also kind of recap anything any other studs and duds, from fantasy this past week. So yeah, you already got my picks, so I pretty much recapped everything that I think needs to be covered, and yeah, man. Thanks everyone for tuning into this episode. Hopefully you guys subscribe, share, and thank you all. I appreciate it. Have a great week and a great weekend, and stay safe. God bless.